Hey, what's up, Parent Collective? I'm going to be going around asking some of our Axis students some questions, get some insight on their life and what they're doing really in their free time. What's your name?
My name's Carter.
Carter, nice to meet you. Well, we're going to look at some screen time today, so you mind me asking, what's your screen time look like?
So my screen time for the week is 10 hours, 25 minutes.
That's his daily average. That's not for the whole week. That's his daily average last week. He was on his phone for 10 hours and 25 minutes. What's that top app?
The top?
I think it says Snapchat, 21 hours and 37 minutes. Who are we talking to on Snapchat?
My mom.
His mom, all right. His mom's got Snapchat. What's that top app right there?
TikTok.
TikTok. What are you watching on TikTok every day?
I mean, it kind of depends, whatever on the For You page. It kind of depends.
For You page, that's interesting. That's what the last kid said too. What's that second app on there? What else are we looking at?
YouTube.
YouTube. Who's your favorite? Who are you subscribed to on YouTube?
Let's see.
Maybe like Pastor John Siebling, the Life Church Online.
Life Church. I am subscribed to Life Church.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. You ever follow it? You ever comment in the chat?
I do.
That's great, Mark. That's great. All right, I've got another question for Eli here, and that's what kind of restrictions do your parents have on your phone and other technology at home?
Well, I have a screen time where it's like it turns on in the morning, and then at a certain time at night it turns off to where I can only text or call people, and that's the restrictions they have. Okay, gotcha. So you can have as much time on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, or is that restricted? Well, I actually don't have social media, but if I did, it wouldn't be restricted. It would just turn off at a certain time. Gotcha. So do you not have social media because your parents don't want you to, or is that your choice? Well, half of it was my choice because it was I was spending too much time on it and not getting schoolwork done. And the other half was probably mostly my parents' choice in the beginning to not get social media.
Welcome to Parent Collective. My name is Anna, and we're so glad you're joining us tonight, whether it be for the first time or you've joined us in the past. And tonight we've got a special topic all about social media and technology, and I'm interviewing an amazing panel of parents. And I just get the honor of being up here because I get to lead and pastor teenagers at the Life Church, so I get to be with Gen Z all of the time. But I'm excited for you to hear from these guys, and we are not experts on technology by any means, but our hope tonight is that we would just be able to encourage you and maybe, if anything, make you feel like you're not alone. You're not doing this by yourself. And tonight we're going to be talking with parents just like you, discussing what's going well, what challenges we're facing, or maybe even advice and tips that we have on navigating this topic with our kids. And we aren't here to tell you what boundaries to put in place or rules to delegate in your home, but we do want to set some sort of framework for just how we think about technology in the home and how you guys set boundaries on values-based relationship building approach. So with that in mind, what an amazing bunch you guys are. Take a moment, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your kids and maybe the age range that you've got in your home.
Well, I'm Kimberly Richards. I have an 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old son, Campbell, who's in 4th grade.
And I'm Amanda Meneses. My husband's Pastor Mundo Meneses. We have 4 amazing kids. Our oldest, Eli, is 14. He just started high school this year. Our daughter, Lily, just started middle school. She's 11, almost 12. And then we have twin girls, Lena and Nora. They are 9, almost 10. So our house is full of fun.
I am Angela Turner, and my husband behind me, Will Turner, and we have 3. I have a 2-year-old daughter, Miles, a 11-year-old 6th grader, Mason, who just started middle school last week, goodness gracious, and a senior, Nicole, who is 17 years old.
Yeah. And don't forget, babe, this is our second go around.
Yeah.
So earlier in our lives, we adopted my siblings, and so we actually have adult kids as well. So, yep.
That's awesome. I only have 4 kids, and
only 4.
Yes, only 4. Starting off with Chloe, and she is a sophomore in high school, and she's doing great. I love what she's doing in high school. And then we have a middle schooler, Maple, in 8th grade, and she's full of energy. And then we have a 4th grader, Penelope, and we have Jet, the only boy, who is in 2nd grade. So 3 girls and a boy.
Full house, a lot of ages represented here tonight. Hopefully, as you're watching, you're able to relate somehow to some of these age ranges in your own home. Tonight, let's start with some general parenting questions. Do you have any big goals in mind when it comes to technology in your household? Any big picture things you keep in mind when it comes to technology and parenting?
Yeah, well, one of our big ones is, like, don't let technology do my job, right? I'm dad. There are things he needs to hear from me. He needs to learn from me. They need to see us model. And so that's a big one for us is don't let technology do the parenting for us.
Yeah, that's good. I think ours is we're trying to explain the why. Like many of us probably grew up in the because I said so era. And that is okay to say sometimes. But many of the times they always ask why. And I'm like, that's a great question. Why don't I go ahead and explain it to you, especially when it comes to technology. Because we do have a why behind technology. Maybe we're afraid to say it sometimes because it's a barrier that we think it will be between us and the kids. But we need to explain to them why we're limiting their screen time, why we're not putting a TV in their room, and those kind of things. Not just because I said so.
I think our overarching goal in parenting in general is to train up our kids in the way that they should go. And for us, that always means looking to God's word for wisdom to know what to do in every season. And I love that there's even a verse that can pertain to how we allow our kids to use technology and how we teach them to use it. So for us in our home, we found a filter in Philippians 4:8. This verse tells us what we should think about, everything that is pure, lovely, excellent, praiseworthy, admirable. But I've actually, rather than just saying think about such things, I've added on to this verse for our kids, and I tell them that's what you write. You write such things. You read such things. You look at such things. You listen to such things. If I wouldn't walk in the room and you say, hey, Mom, look at this, and I'd be, if I don't feel excited about it, you probably shouldn't be watching it. So that's a filter that's worked really well for us.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of you guys mentioned kind of the values-based parenting. And just a quick plug, last fall 2021, we did a parent collective all about this, all about values-based parenting, kind of the why behind the what. So go check that out if you haven't already. I know there are a lot of challenges that parents today are facing when it comes to technology and kids, but before we get into those, let's take a moment and talk about what's going well in your home. How is technology a benefit?
I would say in our home, using technology as a tool has really benefited. Being a solo parent, it can be hard. Trying to see what he's doing at all times and all of that. And so using things like an Echo that we have in our home, I have one in his room. I can drop in, listen to his audio. I can also remind him, hey, I just gave you these tasks to do. And so it's been really helpful for us in that regard.
Right. Keep that thing plugged in.
I think for us, it's really helped us discover creativity in our children. And in particular, I've found my son making beats. I didn't know that was something he was even interested in until I saw him find this program on his computer, and he's really expanded in this area. And so it's been really great to see them explore different things and grow in creative ways. Yeah.
Awesome. And we have we heard a friend say a long time ago that you give your friends cell phones so you can take them away. And that has proven itself quite true. Your kids really do love their devices, right? And as parents, I think that gives us some leverage there. We can use that to our advantage at times. And it's teaching them that it's a privilege and you earn it. And if you've made choices that aren't wise, if there's consequences you need to face, then you don't have the privilege of being able to use that device that you really enjoy.
It's true. I would sum it all up by saying social media is a tool. And here's the truth. Social media is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. If you can't handle it, you probably shouldn't have it. And your Instagram page, your TikTok page, it's a tool in your hands. I've heard it said like this before. It's like a chainsaw, okay? You can do some real work with a chainsaw, but you can also do some serious damage with one. And it's not the chainsaw that's evil. It's the user. It's the person who's using it. And I think it's the same way with social media. You can do some real work. You can really encourage people. You can use it for godly things and connecting with people. I mean, it's social media, right? Yeah. Being social with other people. That's the purpose of it. But you can also do some serious damage and really hurt people with social media as well, or hurt yourself, your own mind and your own heart. And so that's our encouragement to young people. I'm sure that's the encouragement in your home to use it as a tool, use it wisely, stay connected to people, be positive, encourage people. So we've talked about some of the positives. What are some of the challenges? What are some things that you're facing that you maybe get frustrated over, some things you're working through?
For me, it's how much freedom do you give them and how much restraint, how much restrictions do you put on there? There's so many different avenues they can get screens, whether that's TV or your phone or laptops that they're getting from school. There's so many different things happening. I mean, there's chats that I don't know what's happening because they're inside of a game and I can't track that. There's emails. There's just so many ways of like getting into my child's life. And so like how much screen time do I put on there? How much restrictions do I put on there? How much, but then also the freedom side of it, because as they get older, you want them to be able to take care of it themselves because they can't lean on me the whole time. So it's like, when do we release stuff? How much do we give them? And that's a challenge.
Yeah, even with connection, it's like you look for these opportunities to connect, and it's like playing double dutch, right? It's like, when can I jump in? When do I jump in? You're driving, and they're on the phone, and you don't want it to be a punishment that you want to have a conversation. So it's like, that is a little bit challenging, like getting into their world without feeling like you're taking something from them or punishing them, just to have a conversation or just to catch up with them.
Yep, and I feel like kind of tracking along with what you were saying, Brandon, just a minute ago, as far as it's a big world out there, and there's a slight admittance we have to make as parents, especially when you have teenagers, that they actually do know a little bit more than you in this area of life.
That's tough.
It's hard to admit, but I feel like they tend to be a step ahead, and we're just trying to play catch up. We recently discovered this whole concept of airdropping that's become a big issue amongst our school age kids. I mean, from fifth graders, fourth graders on up, from the time they have cell phones. This is happening on buses, school. I mean, any environments they're in, they're suddenly receiving notices to their phone from someone they don't know. This was a conversation we didn't even know we needed to have, but as it was brought to our attention, it did open the door for communication. So we pray that God will bring to our forefront, to our mind, what we need to know in order to help and protect our kids.
Yeah, and I would say one of the challenges that maybe we see with teenagers is that Gen Z is really distracted because of technology. It's a big time waster. I know personally on TikTok, you can spend hours on that thing because there's no end. You can just keep scrolling and scrolling. And so this study was done by Barna. It said that 54% of Gen Z said they waste a lot of time. 53% said they put off or procrastinate doing homework or other things because of technology. 50% said that they're more distracted. 36% said they feel less productive. They don't get much done. 30% said it seems like their attention span is shorter. And I think we could naturally cause ourselves to feel discouraged by something like this. And what are we supposed to do now? What do we do? And a lot of the conversation on this topic is encouraging people, put your screens away, put phones away. And while that may alleviate or help a little bit, screens aren't going anywhere. It's the future. It's this generation. And it might be important, but it's really not going to work because screens are here to stay. So we need thoughtful and informed, sound guidance when it comes to technology. And what do we do when we need that? We go to the Word of God. And so this verse, Luke 11:34, is so key. It says, your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it's bad, your body is full of darkness. So a key thought to think about is when you put garbage in, garbage comes out. So we got to be careful about watching what we're watching what we're listening to, watching how we're interacting, the people that we're following. When you fill yourself up with ungodly things, chances are your life will reflect it. And so I think that's really important to think about.
Yeah, it was something that we've always been thinking about because technology, like Amanda was saying, it's moving fast, very fast. I mean, 15 years ago is when Netflix was invented. And it's like, wow, we've come a long way where Netflix was just like DVDs in the mail. And now it's on any device, anywhere. So like, how can you limit stuff? How can you maybe put some restrictions on phones, especially if they're younger? I know we use a program called Bark. Also, we use iPhone because iPhone has come out with a lot of restrictions that you can look at, which are pretty cool. But Bark is just an extra measure that you can put on there for your emails and your text messages, kind of tracking that kind of stuff. And my kids know it. It's not like I put it on there secretly. It's like, hey, this is happening because I love you and I want to help protect you.
Yeah.
We've used it's a program. It's an app called Custodio. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Custodio. You would download the app to your phone as a parent, and then you download it onto your child's phone or iPad, and it enables you to track anything from texting through controlling every bit of that device from your phone. So you can shut off anything you want to from wherever they are.
Yeah.
So
and I'll just plug this really quick in the Life Church Parents Facebook group. If you're not already part of that, you've got to join it. Every month, a culture translator comes out from this amazing organization, and they kind of break down some popular stuff in pop culture and what's going on. And it's a good, just quick read, kind of gets you in the know of what your students are probably reading about and seeing everywhere. Because I would say that the reality is, if you've got a young person with a phone, they're hiding something from you. I've just got to say it. They're hiding something. It's in a hidden folder, a secret private Snapchat story, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that to out all of our teenagers, okay? Don't hate me, okay? But it is true. You've got to become aware that there are ways to hide things. And so as a parent, partnering with your child and helping make sure you know what's going on will always be helpful. I thought we could make it personal and get into some examples, because there's a lot of opinions out there on rules and limits on technology. And we understand there aren't always clear-cut boundaries, because the Bible doesn't talk about technology. It wasn't around back then. And so we understand there isn't always clarity surrounding this topic as Christians. So I want to break this down by age range and kind of give a snapshot on what the experts say to consider. Then I'd like to kind of know how it plays out for you guys in your home. So toddlers in preschool, experts say that babies to 2 years should have no screen time. There should be face-to-face time with family. And then 2 to 6 years, no more than 1 hour of screen time each day. What would you guys say about that? Some of you have some toddlers.
Man, I say that's tough. And
right?
if I'm being judged on, like, the statistics are great, but if I'm being judged on them, I'm failing as a parent.
I'm judging you right now.
You're judging me. Yeah. I mean, we have a child that's less than 2 years old.
Yeah.
And she's had more screen time than what's recommended.
Right. What the experts say doesn't always translate to reality.
And so anything more than 0.
Right. Anything more than I'm months behind. I'm hours behind.
Let's just say she knows about Bruno.
I'm sure there's a lot of 2-year-olds in the world.
I feel like sometimes it'll boil down to the quality of the content.
That.
Yeah. So although realistically, it's going to be very rare you find someone who does not put their little toddler on a device for at least some part of their day. Right. What they're doing on that device, I think, is important. And so for us, when we had our young Eli, when he was little bitty, iPads were the thing, and we just turned it into a kid iPad for him, and they were all educational games.
Totally. So interactive, educational.
Yep, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, all that good stuff.
It's true. I think something good is to just set boundaries early, parental controls. It's easier to give access than to take it away, I'm sure, and then limiting it. And then anyone want to talk about the Kids Bible app? It's a really great resource.
Yeah, the Kids Bible app is phenomenal. It's what we
safe,
used.
It's clean, it's the Bible.
Yeah, it is. And it's interactive too. So we used it when our kids were younger. We would lock our phone to where it just stayed on that app, and then we would give it to them, and they could play on it and then, read the Bible, which was crazy because it's just so colorful and animated that they really did enjoy it. So I loved it.
Yeah. That's great. All right, let's talk about elementary school. Experts say that you should encourage healthy habits and set time limits on screen time. Turn off all screens during family meals and outings. Turn off screens 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime, and avoid using screens to stop tantrums.
That's
what would you guys say about that one?
I would have to say
Bruno's the only answer.
I would have to say that's hard. With the work that I do and the amount of technology we use in our home, I definitely want to have boundaries and time limits, but sometimes using technology for whatever restricted time is helpful for me to keep him occupied. Coming out of a pandemic, working from home, and you know what I mean, having to keep him occupied.
On your plate,
yeah, definitely.
And I definitely do agree with having a set cutoff time, right? But I think there's a conversation for certain age kids, we can have together, right? With the baby, of course, we control everything. We control cutoff times. But then we have a senior in high school as well. So it's like
Totally different.
Totally
Yep.
different conversation. So
Yeah, and I think what he's saying is valid. It's conversations. Like, we are having lots of conversations, and technology has kind of pushed us to have those conversations earlier. You know, when it comes to pornography or inappropriate material, now I'm talking to an 8-year-old instead of before when it might have been a 12-year-old. But it's also a conversation about restrictions, the why behind what's happening.
Exactly.
That's really important.
I think telling them the why and teaching them that helps them develop critical thinking so that
Yeah.
when they come across something, it's not something they're hiding from you, but they're coming to you and telling you, Mom and Dad, what do I do about this? I saw something I shouldn't have seen. And telling them why, your body needs to move to stay healthy. Sunshine helps us grow strong. Your brain needs time away from screens in order to grow and develop and learn. Anything else you guys want to mention about internet safety or elementary school, students?
Well, I'll say just with when my older kids were younger, and I still do this now, but just to kind of keep a balance when it comes to that age range, I make sure that we step away. We go to the park, and I feel like maybe there are times where they're a little bit too engrossed in technology or in their device or Oculus, all these things. You know what? Let's put down the devices. Yeah. Let's go have a picnic. Let's do something. Get our bodies moving. Let's get a little bit of vitamin D. So, that's something that we do often.
I agree. And for us, the only time the devices, now granted, cell phones are a different story, but with our elementary age kids, because ours didn't get phones till middle school, so we didn't deal with that necessarily at the elementary age. So I know that's a different story. With tablets, they stay at home unless we're going on a road trip.
Yeah.
Then they know it can come in the car. And at dinner time, it's a screen-free time. That is time to be together as a family. Our phones, my husband and I, our phones are not at the table. The kids' phones are not allowed at the table. Tablets are away, and it's time to be together.
And I'm gonna tell you something my wife does a really good job at is, without having to take away the devices, she sets aside time for them to talk about their day, how was school, and not making it like, okay, put your device down, let's talk.
Right.
She's turned it into something where they look forward to just having conversation, not even realizing, and we don't have to be the bad guys all the time and say, put that away.
Yeah, your phone's not the enemy,
Right.
but it can be if it's limiting you from family time and connecting with your parents. Okay, let's break it down to middle school. Are you ready? The experts say discuss and model healthy technology usage, foster an awareness of how technology usage influences their mind, body, and emotions, prioritize offline connections, encourage a variety of in-person relationships and face-to-face interactions, foster attachment with frequent parent-child engagement and conversation, educate tweens on the risks associated with technology and social media, and there's no benefit to having social media in middle school. What do we think about that?
Man,
I
I'm
agree.
all for it.
I agree.
I'm all for it.
100%.
Yes. For us, our middle school years have been when we use the most restrictions, because that's when they get a phone. And so we have we use the iPhone to do screen time. Their games are limited to like 10 minutes. They don't have social media until they're 16. But, those kind of limits and things like that. And then, of course, with our older daughter, now that she's 15, we kind of did a trial run with Instagram where we have all the contact information, all the codes and stuff, so we can actually log in and see what she's posting, and just trying to help her navigate, like, let's make mistakes in a safe place before you make mistakes, to the public.
Yeah.
What would you say if they're bucking against that? Like what?
Well, that's what I was just going to.
Yeah.
And this is the age where your kids are going, if you're putting all these filters in place, they're going to feel most likely for the first time, as far as their technology is concerned, that you are definitely going in a different direction than culture.
Yeah.
And they're going to look to the left and look to the right and start comparing themselves and start coming home saying, Mom, Dad, why don't I get to scroll through YouTube on my phone? And why do I have to use your phone to look at Safari? They're going to feel it. But those are teachable moments. And that's where
safeguards.
Yes, you do speak to boundaries. You do speak to, well, you have a different calling on your life than that kid to your left and right, possibly. And as your mom, as your dad, we have to honor God and do what we believe He is calling us to do to train you up And this is going to be part of it. And I believe they'll thank us in the end down the road, even though right now it may be a little bit of a battle. The why behind the what, it really does factor back in for sure.
That's great.
In that season.
And we can't use the excuse like, well, I didn't have a social media when I was in junior high school.
It's a new
they know
world.
it did not exist.
It's true.
Right. So can't use that one.
That's a good point. And I think boundaries help kids feel safe, whether they may admit it or not. What would you guys say to a parent that maybe hasn't restricted at all and they're hearing this and they feel encouraged or inspired, or they've been maybe wanting to go that direction? What do they do?
I would say definitely give yourself grace.
Yes.
And allow room to be flexible.
There's not one way to do everything.
There's not
right?
one way to do
Yeah.
everything. Like for me, I'm a solo parent, so sometimes there may be things that I allow that a household with two parents,
Right.
they're able to restrict a little bit more. So I would just definitely say give yourself grace, but also use the Word of God as your guide, and look through a biblical lens. And like Amanda mentioned about being countercultural, right? Technology is moving so fast, but I think the main thing is listening to God in what we're doing and how we're allowing our children to have that access.
That's great. And your Campbell, he's really creative. He uses YouTube, and with your guidance, of course. How would you say that's kind of influenced maybe his confidence?
He definitely has more confidence. He's definitely more outgoing.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have access to any of that. And I've put, this account is managed by my mom. He does not have a cell phone. But that's something that he desired.
It's like an outlet for him.
It's an outlet for
totally.
him.
Creativity. It's amazing.
Yeah. I would say, man, it's not too late to start.
Yes.
Like you don't have to go from 0 to 100, but start taking some steps to, you can feel it in your heart. Like that, man, I feel like there should be a boundary here. Like I feel like there should be something here guarding my child. Take that step and make that happen. And you might have some pushback, like Amanda said, but like Anna said,
Imagine
in reality,
what you're protecting them from or helping them learn.
they want to be protected. They want safeguards.
Yeah.
I'd say, do your homework, do your research,
That's
because
good.
there's a lot of information out there, and good information you can find. Do your research on the devices they have. Learn what because iPhones themselves have tons of great parental control settings.
Yep.
If you don't know what they are, do your research.
Yeah.
You can find that information pretty
YouTube.
quickly. If you can't, ask one of us. Those of
Right.
us who have put those things in place. Find a friend. We would love to help you.
Yeah, Kimberly, you mentioned something about Netflix. It kind of updates you with what he's watching. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I have restricted streaming in our home when I realized that some of the other popular streaming apps don't have where you can lock your account. And I had found that Campbell was watching things and searching for things that he should not have been. And so Netflix does have the option where you can lock an account. You can set the age if it's for a child. So he's able to go into there. He cannot access mine, but each week it gives me an update on what he's watching.
Yep.
And that's a good space for conversation if he's been watching things about friendship or whatever the case may be.
That's amazing. I'm sure it's encouraging. And I think that there are some key topics to discuss with middle schoolers. I don't think that we're crazy or different, but we do stand out from the world, right? We're set apart. We're not supposed to look like everyone else. And so some topics to discuss: cyberbullying, text or phone etiquette, pornography, healthy boundaries. What would you guys say with those topics has been helpful?
I would say don't be afraid to have the conversation because nobody around them is afraid. Their friends are not afraid to talk about it. Their teachers are not afraid to talk about it. All of the people around them are having these conversations and even possibly introducing them to things and thoughts and then they come home and we're not having a conversation because we're worried about, how to approach it. So
Who's
it's
the
like,
loudest voice in their life? Hopefully it's mom and dad.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's go to high school. Experts say that we should encourage teens to be involved in a variety of free time activities. Spend time together with your teen watching TV, playing games, or going online, and talk with teenagers about online consent, privacy settings, personal information, and online purchases. Thoughts?
We kind of do the coaching model by this age where we're kind of having those important conversations with them and releasing more as she's about to be 16 next month. So we're getting to that age where we're releasing, giving her more access to things, but also keeping as many conversational outlets as possible with her about like, hey, what are you watching? You know, prying into what she's doing. Let me see your text messages. Let me check in what's going on. Like, we still want to be in it, but she also knows that.
I would say it's always do not be afraid to be nosy or curious. You want to snoop around. You want to make sure you know the content that your kids are looking at. You want to know what they're saying on social media. You know, I even think about Snapchat, like what they say after so long, it goes away, you know, so we want to monitor and make sure that they know, I'm going to check what you're texting. I'm going to check what you're looking at, so they know that there's open communication. So, you know, they'll have a filter themselves. Is this something that I'd be proud of posting or watching, you know? So
And I think recognizing the reality that our teenagers want you way more than they want that phone. When I go into Eli's room and I sit down and talk with him, I have his undivided attention, and I guarantee you he'll communicate with me a whole lot more in those 15, 20 minutes than he might even with his friends, and he'll go deeper, and it's a heart-to-heart. And I also, going back to what you were saying, Brandon, as far as this is a season in life where you kind of start off still restricted, but then you want to kind of gradually start giving a little bit more freedom here and there, because our goal is to train them up, once again, the way they should go. And I don't want them leaving my house and suddenly it's like, woohoo, freedom, you know? And then they're thrown into this world of young adulthood, college life, and it's a free-for-all, and they don't have the wisdom to know how to manage it, and it eats them alive. So while they're under my roof, I want to at least be able to have those conversations, even if there are going to be those moments where they might mess up. They might make a mistake. I love that I can be available to them to help lead and guide them, love them through it, help them grow through it, and move forward.
Yep, these are some great thoughts, and I want to remind every parent that not every single rule is going to work for every single home or situation or child, and it's okay to set boundaries in your home. It's okay to set rules and safeguards, even when it's not popular or normal as your student or your child may tell you. It's godly, and it sets them apart and protects them. And I would just encourage you that it's important to look at the values you want to instill in your home, and then you just set those boundaries accordingly that reinforce those values. So let's dive into our last two questions of the night. First, what do you wish every single parent knew about this topic?
I wish every parent knew you don't have to do it like the next parent. It's okay to find your way and find what works for you. And just because, just because Pastor Brandon does it this way, I don't feel the pressure to have to do it his way. You know, find your way, and just don't feel that pressure to do it like anybody else or be like anyone else.
Yeah, I kind of echoing what Amanda said earlier, but I wish every parent knew the security measures that they can do. But it is a little bit of research. It's a YouTube search of, hey, what restrictions can I put on my iPhone? Because every update has a new restriction that they can add on. So, man, I wish parents knew about Bark and Custodio, and just a little bit of research, a little bit of effort can go a long way in helping your children.
Yep, I wish every parent knew that you're not the only one whose kid messes up in this area. Give yourself grace, as you had mentioned earlier, because it's going to happen. It's a learning curve for you and for them. And don't take their failures, their mistakes upon yourself as a parent. I love what Pastor Leslie, Anna's mom, says a lot, that we can't judge our parenting by one season. And although your kid may make a pretty big mistake in this area, it happens, but use that as a teachable moment and help your child, as I was saying earlier. Mistakes are not necessarily, but we want them to make some mistakes in this season when they're with us, so we can coach them and we can help them learn from it and not make the same mistake again.
You mentioned something about how often your kids look up at you on the playground. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so that was there was a mom who decided to do a little experiment. She realized she'd been on her phone a whole lot, way too much when she was around her kids, particularly, she had little ones, so particularly going to the park, going to the playground, in those moments where you are trying to get out of the house and have a screen-free moment. She was actually still on her screen. And so she decided one day at the park to put her phone down and watch her kids and count how many times in that amount, let's say it was about an hour, how many times they looked up at her. And she was amazed that it was like 30 times her child made eye contact with her in that one period of play. And she realized, wow, I've been missing out on connection. I am the mom of 2 little gymnasts who flip around everywhere, and I go to gymnastics class with them, and I'm sitting up high in this viewing room that is way too far away from them, but I've got glass walls in front. I didn't think they could see me. I really didn't. But the first class I noticed right off the bat that they look up at me over and over and over again. Not even just when they do something, they're thinking, did you see it, Mom?
They're checking to see
Just
if Mom's watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was one time where one of my girls called me out and said, Mom, you were on your cell phone the whole time. I was like, oh. So that 1 hour is theirs. It's not the time to play catch up.
So leading by example, being
yes,
the one.
Yes.
If we're doing no screen time past a certain time, we are too.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, that's so good. Like what you talked about, if we're not doing screen time, maybe you're new to restrictions and boundaries, or maybe you're trying something different in your home. I know for me, modeling works. Campbell is always watching me. So anything that I want to see him do, and I'm saying that it's for the family, even though our family is just 2 people. If I model for him, he really is following what I'm doing. He really is watching.
I would also like to say, I think it makes a big difference too if you make a decision to dive in with your kids. If they're into something like, I found my son watching anime, and I don't always know what's going on with it. And sometimes there's good anime and there's some not so good anime, but sitting down and saying, hey, you know what are you watching? Let's watch together, and just kind of diving in with him. So I'm more aware of what he's watching, and doing the same thing with, he's not on social media, but as he gets older, kind of participating, having chats, whatever that thing is, to connect with him more. So I know what path he's taking when it comes to using technology.
That's amazing. Okay, final question of the night. Are there any practical steps that parents who are watching tonight can take with them this week and apply in this area?
Yeah, I would love to encourage you, for one, don't do this thing alone.
Yes.
And you don't have, moms, you don't have to do this mom thing alone. We have an incredible life group called Flourish Moms, and it's actually just launched. Our new season just launched this week. We meet at multiple Mid-South locations all around the area, as well as online. And these are groups of moms who get together every other week and just do life together. We're digging into God's Word. But these are ladies you can lean into. You're assigned to a mentor mom as well. So there's a mom who's been there, done that, who can speak wisdom over your life and encourage you. So don't do this mom thing alone. Don't do this parenting thing alone.
Partner with someone who's going the same direction as you.
Someone.
Totally.
Yeah, the same thing happened in Mancation. We just met last night, and
Mancation's the men's group.
The men's
at our
groups that are
church.
meeting in different areas, and we had 22 guys here at Houston Levy, and
Amazing.
just talking about, man, what's the struggle? How can we help? And we all throw out what's going on, what we're doing well in, and also what we're struggling in. But the stuff that people talk about doing well in, you're able to glean from that and just be like, oh, that's really good. I'm gonna take that home today and use that, and that was really cool to do. But I would say join a men's group if you're a man.
Surround yourself.
Yeah,
totally.
Iron sharpen iron.
Yeah, I would say, going back to core values, what are we passionate about? Pick one thing that we're passionate about, or you're passionate about as a parent, and say, I'm going to really focus in on this week.
That's good.
And I'm going to bring my child along with me.
I think bringing them along is
right,
the important part.
Exactly.
Not just like we're doing this,
Right.
but like, hey, what do you think
come
about?
on, what do you think about this? Yes.
That's awesome.
I will say, as a child, having grown up in my parents' home, I'm thankful for some of the boundaries they set in place for me. I had to keep my phone downstairs until I was 18 years old. Believe it or not, it was not cool. It was not popular. I did not like it at the time, but I'm so thankful from the things that they protected me from. Did I have malicious intent? Of course not. But they protected me from things that other people might have sent, or just being on my phone far past the time I should have been on. And I'm thankful for that. And I would say the other thing that I'm so thankful they did is kept me in a healthy environment. It kept me in kids' life and youth group. And I got to be around other students whose parents were going after the things of God. I got to look up to leaders who were setting the boundaries for me and helping me keep watch over my life, watch over the things I'm following and the things I'm talking about. And so I would just encourage you, plug for our kids ministry and our youth ministry. We're plugging all kinds of stuff up here, but it'll help. It's a resource for you. It's a family of God. That's really what it is. We're partnering together. And so let me just encourage you, we would love to see your kids this weekend in church and Kids Life all weekend long. They can come to any service with you and they will be having a blast, trust me. Yep. And also your students, your middle schoolers and high schoolers, we have access every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock across 4 of our Mid-South locations, and we want them to be here, okay? Yep. They get partnered with the tribe leader, someone that's kind of coaching them and encouraging them, and they get to be with other students just like them, chasing after the things of God. And then lastly, another plug for the Life Church Parents Facebook group. Maybe that's how you found this stream tonight. But if you didn't know about it, you've got to join it. Some amazing parents in that group, and lots of resources will be dropping over the next couple of weeks. Safety tips on technology, conversation starters for all of your ages. And in the meantime, we would love to see you at church. Thanks for joining us tonight. We hope that this was an encouragement and a blessing to you. And join that Facebook group if you've got some more insight or maybe some more resources. We would love to see them. But thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a great night.
All right.
One more question. If you had kids, would you give them a phone? Would you let them watch TV? And what kind of restrictions would you put on their technology?
I would put a time limit, and I wouldn't let them have a phone until they were 16.
16 years old and a time limit. Is that okay if your parents do that for you?
Yes. Well, I'm not really technically allowed to have a real phone until I'm 16. It's like an iPod.
Gotcha. If you had kids, what kind of technology would you let them use, and would you put any restrictions on it?
I would probably, because I don't want them to have too much and then not go outside and play.
Gotcha. So it's important to get some physical exercise outside, huh?
Yes.
All right. Got it.